candidates for the Irish Freedom Party in other constituencies, and it's, you know what? Ultimately, we can't spoon feed people. Ultimately, people will have to get up off their armchair, get up, register, and vote. And do you know what? I'm a man. I'm a man of political convictions. I don't have any criminal convictions. Now, people can go to other spaces, and they can hear guys who've had criminal convictions for drug running or whatever, possession and drug dealing, who are who tell the Irish people that what we need to do is have a militia and go out and get thousands of Irishmen, and we're going to take over the state by uh, knocking the head off the Gardaí and set up we're going to militarily take over the state. These people are off their heads. Mainly, they're low IQ, low education. They're idiots. They know nothing about history, and they haven't experienced political violence as I have in the north of Ireland. And you know what? So many of these people, their criminal convictions. I had one guy who ran against us there. Like, this guy was convicted for armed robbery, and among other things. And these are the people that other spaces will put up guys who've, they quote Mein Kampf and talk about Hitler as the best thing since sliced pan. These people are crazy. We've got to be very careful. Not everybody who calls himself an Irish nationalist should be trusted. Not everybody who calls himself an Irish nationalist is sane, is reasonable, is looking to get to the right place. So I would ask for people to examine carefully what people say, who they are, how they show their character, what policies they advocate. Look at those very clearly and cast your vote accordingly. So I won't keep on forever and ever. If Dr. Owen or Ciara would like to respond to that, and then Ciara will finish, please, with Aaron Levein, and we'll wish everybody good night, because it's now, 9:45. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'm going. Yeah. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you very much, Herman.
Thank you, Rennie. Thank you for your help.
Have a good night, guys. Thank you. Thank you.
All I would say to Rennie there is to remember that Irish is also tied up in certain ways with class here. Particularly, you see a lot of the Champagne socialist left-wingers, Sinn Féin crowd using it as a weapon. Like when I grew up, for example, and went to school in the 90s and in the late primary school in the mid-80s and 90s, it was, if you weren't from the Gaeltacht, you despised Irish, mainly because of how it was taught. So now I think it's fantastic to see this grassroots effort coming through the chat rooms, and I would support it. And I think that's why it's being attacked, that's what they fear, is that a grassroots love of the language coming back.
Well said, Owen. Just on the point that you made, Herman, I've listened in on spaces, and I've been absent for spaces because there's a lot of comments being made about me that I'm a NGO troll or an NGO paid employee. I work for the guards and everything else, all lies. But anyway, it's easy to make comments like that when you're hiding behind a faceless avatar and when you think you're anonymous. However, I will address one issue, and I want to be very clear on this, guys and girls and everybody in this room. I've said for the last year and a half that, you're responsible for your words and your actions in these spaces. And you're also responsible if you're party to something that's happening within a space. Okay. And the reality is there's a number of spaces, in Ireland at the moment that are saying that we need armed insurrection. We need this, we need that, we need the other. As Herman said, he's lived through the troubles in Northern Ireland. I've been in conflict zones that would make the hair stand in the back of your head to see some of the atrocities that were done in those zones. But notwithstanding that, even the suggestion of insurrection, armed insurrection in Ireland is actually covered under the Offences Against the State Act, Section 30, and can land you in the Special Criminal Court, which McDougall brought forward a number of years ago, which is intended to be used with terrorists, with members of the IRA, prescribed organizations, where there may be the intent to intimidate the victims or to intimidate witnesses. So that court is held with 3 judges. You may or may not be allowed a solicitor. You may not even be told what you're being charged for and what you're being prosecuted for. I'll post to the bubble in a couple of minutes. The Times ran a piece that the government were considering using the Section 30 Offences of State Act against far right and far right protesters. So the only advice that I'm going to give on the space tonight, and to protect the people, to protect anyone that wants to be protected, is even participating, even saying something like that in public. I'm all for free speech, guys and girls, but even saying for anything like that in public, where you are perceived as being a threat to the state of Ireland, will land you in deep shit. And it may not happen this week, and it may not happen next week, but it will happen. So, you can have all the bravado you want, and if you're drugged up or if you're drunk off your head and saying stuff like that, that isn't going to stand as your defense, especially if you get pulled into the special criminal court. I feel that there's been, and Owen, you might comment on this before we go, but the AfD have seemingly won the German elections, which is a huge thing. They're perceived as far right. I'd consider them somewhat centrist and along the same basis as ourselves. But unless you do things democratically, you'll have the situation where whoever takes over non-democratically is going to be perceived as the dictator from the other party. So they win it by the ballot box, boys and girls. I know that it has been disappointing in the local elections and the European elections, and even more disappointing that some of the people, the